Here's a shot of my case feeder, and on 300 Blackout, the only way I got this to run effectively was to use the large pistol feeder disc for the 300 Blackout. You can see some in there. I have some stainless steel wire. I don't know what gauge this is, but I had to modify it. The case feeder, well, I added this guide, and you can see it right there. And I'm going to turn it on right now so you can see the operation. I mean, it works really well. I haven't had any problems with it. I'm going to run it on fast right here. Here we go. Okay, I've added more cases to this. One thing is to adjust these little Allens so that you have just the right amount of slip. See that? You can see it slipping right there. You don't want it too tight, but you don't want it too loose. That way you can handle, you know, a couple of handful of cases, maybe even 3 handfuls of cases. But certainly you don't want it too tight where you bog down the motor. Okay, here we go. We're going to go on fast. And we have a little bit more cases in there, so I think that'll make the difference. And there it stopped. So we have the tube is full of cases right there. It's ready to go. I'm using IMR 4227 powder. Very versatile for the 300 Blackout. Can load just about anything with this powder as far as the 300 Blackout, from 120 grain to 220. I've noticed up to about 200 grain, you start getting short stroking. That's the other thing I noticed with the 200 grain Lapus is short stroking on the firearm. So if you're gonna go to 200 grain and beyond, it'd probably be a good idea to go with maybe a 110 H110 pistol powder. Might deliver more power, but at this point I'm going to leave that alone. I'm going to go with the 180 and 168 grain Hornadies. Okay guys, I ran into a problem with the 300 Blackout. When I was loading 150 grain bullets on these, everything went alright. Every now and then I would have a cartridge that wouldn't, would stick out. When I check every cartridge with this gauge. It's a Sheridan gauge, stainless steel cutaway, and most of them would be good. Every now and then I'd find one that stick out about so much, and I couldn't figure out what was going on. I thought maybe the neck area was a little big. This area right here, I thought, well, maybe it's the neck area, so I mic'd that. That was okay. I thought maybe it was the base area back here, but that was fine. And I could take a case, it'd go right in, and then I'd load it, put a primer on it, put some powder on it, and load the bullet on it, and all of a sudden, it wouldn't go in anymore. So I was like, what's going on? So come to find out, the problem was, and you can see a little bit of scuff marks. I don't know if you can see it right there. There's a little bit of scuff marks right around there, right below the shoulder. And that's where it was hanging up. It'd come in about maybe that far, and it wouldn't go in anymore. Maybe a little more, but that'd be about it. That's not going to chamber in your rifle. It's just not going to happen. So about every 4 out of 10 rounds I was having this problem. So I figured, man, it's a pain in the ass to unload these cases and then resize them. And then what are you going to do with these cases? I mean, you load them again, you're going to have the same problem. And I noticed this problem particularly as I went to 180 and 200 grain bullets. The 150 grain full metal jackets, you know, just blasting bullets, they seem to be okay. Once in a while I'd get a bulge, you know, and you know, or a case would not sit all the way. So I mean, that was okay, you know, maybe 1, 2, 3 or 4 out of 100, that was fine. But on when I started going to a heavier bullet, I started noticing it happening about, you know, 3 or 4 cases out of 10, which is really unacceptable. My solution to this, and you know, some of you safety queens might not agree with it, was to, you know, I had a 300 grain, 300 Blackout Lee sizing die that I'd been messing with, you know, because I couldn't get the shoulder where I wanted it. So I ground a little bit off here, and you know, finally I bought me a Forester sizing die, and that fixed my problems. You know, I started getting the shoulder on the 300 Blackouts where I wanted them, because sometimes with this die I run into the same problem. I kind of got allergies right now. It's that time of the year, and you know, I was getting this, you know, a little bit of, you know, wouldn't see it all the way, and I turned the die in a little further and a little further, and I still get, and I go like, come on, you know, what's going on here? So I tried grinding down a little bit down here, you know, to get it closer to the shell holder, and I mean, I really wasn't getting the results. So I went to a Forester die, and that pretty much fixed my problem. So I had this die laying around, and I figured, well, now I'm having this problem with this, you know, loaded ammo that won't go, you know, into my gauge all the way. And I looked all around, and I couldn't find a body sizing die for 300 Blackout. They have them for 30-06, 308. I got one for 308 NATO, I mean, and 223. They just didn't make it for 300 Blackout. So what I did is I took my 300 Blackout sizing die, and I cut it in half, and then I ground on the side of the grinding wheel. And people say, well, you shouldn't do that either, right? Well, I do it anyway. I ground this nice and flush on the side of the grinding wheel, and the way I did that was I have a grinding wheel here that's got a 6-inch cutting disc that I bought at Harbor Freight, and I put some washers in there to kind of take up, you know, what the 6-wheel, you know, the 6-inch grinding wheel normally is, was about 3/4, or I don't know, 7/8 thick. Probably closer, yeah, about 7/8. So basically, it's just took my wheel and just cut the die in half. I had some water, you know, a bowl of water right here. I would cool it, you know, intermittently, and then, you know, keep cutting until, you know, I got a nice. Then I just ground the side over here on that disc, you know. Finished it up real nice, you know, so that's what I end up with. A 300 Blackout Lee sizing die, 300 Blackout, that now I can use for as a small body die, and I'll just, you know, resize my loaded cartridges through that. There's nothing that'll set this cartridge off. I'm not really neck sizing it either, because the other thing I did was to hone out. I left, if you look at this thing here, it's this, what I've made, you still have some neck area in here. You know, I didn't cut it all the way down here. So what I did is I had to hone this out with emery cloth, and I used a piece of straight steel that I cut a slot in, and I was able to form that emery cloth around it, and I just honed it out till basically what happened was I got it to where it'll read 329 thousandths, 330, where before it was reading about 314, 318. What that would have done is that would have crimped the outside of my neck, which I didn't want to do at this point. That's a 329, 328. And what this does, it basically doesn't disturb the neck of this loaded cartridge. You know, basically, this is a loaded cartridge. Goes right in. See that? Doesn't disturb the neck area at all. All it does, it takes care of this bulge right here. You size it so that it goes right into your gauge. A little bit of a tight fit, but that's not a problem. It'll now chamber in my rifle. See that? So that's how I fixed it. It's kind of unorthodox, you know. Some of you safety queens may frown on it, but you know, it beats the hell out of having to unload. And you know, I mean, that's the only fix I know of. I mean, there may be other fixes. I mean, if you guys have any, please feel free to comment. Okay guys, I've reloaded some of these rounds, and it's not going in. It's a little case bulge right there, like I was talking before about. So I've looped this one here. Just gonna resize it. There you go. This one here, it's not too bad, but still, it's not going to chamber sitting like that. So let me do this one. There you go. That one will chamber now. Very good round for the 300 Blackout, 180 grain Hornady SSTs, 14.5 grains of IMR 4227 with standard primer. The overall length I set at 2.240. I've tried about 8 rounds through my rifle, and they all chamber and extract no problem. So there you have it. This is probably the best round I've fired through that rifle. Just runs really good, really accurate. Okay guys, here's another shot of this body die that I made. Small body die. This goes right into the Forester press. Here's a lubricated round, 180 grain SST. And that's all it takes. There you go. Works like a champ. Now, some of you might not agree with this, but you know what? Nothing is gonna set this off. Nothing is gonna contact the primer. You know, just a hole right there. It's got two jaws. That's it. Just grabs onto the round. It centers it. See that? Even if it's off to the side, centers it, and then you just follow on through right there. There it is. Alright guys, over and out.